Hey guys, welcome back to the Ad Lib Podcast. Today is episode number 28. Just coming off our interview with Davey Shu a couple of days ago, which was an exciting interview we had. Today, Joe is back. I'm glad he's back. And Franco is taking a break. He deserves it. So, Joe, first of all, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm happy to be back. Regrettably, I had to drop out at the pretty much last minute last week. But yeah, happy to be back. Haven't really watched that much, but gonna give my all with what I have watched and what I'm willing to discuss today. How are you doing?
Definitely. I'm really good, actually. I'm really good. I just finished watching Extraction 2. Talk about it in the review section, but very positive, very positive. I like Chris Hemsworth. I like seeing him beat up lots of buff dudes. And there's lots of that. And lots of shooting and lots of explosions as well. So it was my kind of movie. Yeah. It was a very cool movie. So I really enjoyed that. I'm not looking forward to tomorrow, because tomorrow my next set of exam papers come in to correct. Thankfully, this time it will be the smaller pack, because I already had a big batch last week. So not looking forward to that, but near the end. So the summer holidays are almost here. Looking forward to that as well. It'll be a nice time to, have lots of free time to get content out as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we can focus on the social media.
I can't remember the last time I had like a full summer holidays. It's depressing.
It's one of the good things of being a teacher, eh? One of the good things of being a teacher, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
And more time to train, more time to go running and so on. Because I haven't been running at all, just training.
Is it possible to run in Malta in the summer?
I'd say too. Now, now's the time.
Exactly, yeah. All really early in the morning at like 6.
Yeah, that as well. But yeah, overall, quite good. I had a nice nap as well today. I really needed it.
Jealous.
Insomma. So today we have a few trailers to talk about. We actually have 4 trailers to talk about. So quite a few trailers. Not a lot of news, to be honest. Actually, the fact that last week our episode was recorded on Wednesday kind of took up a few news pieces as well. So not a lot of news pieces to talk about. But we have some very interesting reviews. Joe, we have obviously Extraction 2 to talk about. We had the new season of Black Mirror, which I've been really excited to watch. I managed to watch all 5. I think you managed to watch 1, right, Joe?
Yeah, I managed to watch 1.
Which one did you watch?
I no longer have access to a Netflix account, because I was one of those poor people borrowing an account for years. No. And now Netflix shut it down. So I need to be fair, don't tell Netflix. It only doesn't work if you're watching it on a TV. If you watch it on an iPad or on a phone, it still lets you share an account. So.
For me, it still works. At least here in Malta, I'm like, because I have my account is shared between me, my girlfriend, obviously, because now we live together, and my parents, and obviously my sister who still lives with my parents, and we're still sharing it. Fine, like nothing has happened so far.
To be fair, I believe the account I was using was shared by quite a number of people. It could be the case that they just cracked down it. It was my girlfriend's brother's account, and I think like 4 of his friends had it, and his parents had it, and then his wife's parents had it. So
Jesus, okay.
Yeah, it was very much being exploited.
Yeah. But to be fair, I use my account at my parents' house as well, because I go quite a few days to my parents' house, and I watch stuff with them as well on my account there. So that maybe they might think it's my workplace and my home. Maybe. That could be a thing. I don't know. Yeah. But so far, so good, thankfully. I don't want to pay for another Netflix account, Jesus.
Yeah. But I
believe
I managed to watch Loch Henry.
Loch Henry. Oh, that's the last one I watched.
I live in Scotland. It was one of the shorter ones. It was a fairly late night on Friday night, sorry. And I said, let me watch this one, because I know the scenery, and I was like guessing where like things were filmed and stuff. I'll give my opinion in the reviews.
Definitely. So we can get started. Obviously, guys, this is the Ad Lib Podcast. Here we talk about movies, here we talk about TV series, and obviously video games when we have the opportunity to talk about video games. Unfortunately, Joe, last week you missed the episode on the Summer Games Fest.
Yes.
Your input in that.
I didn't have that many thoughts, to be fair.
Okay. All right.
I'm a little bit checked out on games at the moment and like the news around them. I kind of just
Yeah.
I haven't even had the time to like really devote to Jedi Survivor. Like, in fact, after going to Iceland and stuff, I've only played it twice since, and I've been back for a while now. So, yeah, I'm a bit checked out on video games at the moment. I need to get back into it.
To be honest, I had some time playing Diablo, and then I had corrections, so I kind of stopped a little bit. And when I have an hour or two to play, I like to play with my friends, kind of on Call of Duty. So there's that as well. But once this week is over, then I'll have more time to dedicate to no-lifing Diablo and get back on the grind. But obviously, here at the Ad Lib Podcast, as always, we have 3 sections. We're going to start off by talking about our week, first and foremost. Then we'll talk about the trailers that I mentioned, and obviously the little bit of news we have. Finally, we also have our reviews to do. So, without further ado, Joe, your past week, what have you been up to? What have you been watching, doing? Tell us.
So, my past week at work, preseason has officially started, so all the players are back in, and that's why I was so busy last week, just getting back into the swing of things and leveling things out.
Very early, sir.
Yes, and it's gonna be a really long one. I think it's about a 15-week preseason because there's the Rugby World Cup this year. So our league doesn't actually start until October, I think.
How come they start so early?
Because the World Cup's in September.
Oh, so they have to train for the World Cup?
We have to get people in shape. A whole lot of things are up in the air. There's like so many like different things flying about, and it's all just a little bit of a shit show right now. But we'll see how things level out. And to be fair, the players are in. They're not doing the traditional preseason that they normally would. Normally they would come in and they'd be in Monday, Tuesday, a break on Wednesday, and then they'd be in Thursday, Friday. Did
the majority of the team, Joe, play with their national team?
That's another thing that we have, because there's the World Cup. Players that we have representing their national teams are all off with their national teams at the moment, doing their own kind of World Cup prep. So we have our team in minus about 16 players who are playing for Scotland. We've got one guy playing for Fiji and one guy playing for Argentina as well. So it's a smaller group, and they're only in 3 times a week now. They're in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and fairly shorter days, just because with a sport like rugby, you have to get conditioned fairly early on because of how physical and how harsh it is on the body. So right now, with this, I think the first month and a bit of preseason is going to be fairly like light for them compared to what it normally is. I mean, they're still getting killed in training every day, but yeah, so that's been pretty busy. But apart from that, like just life-wise, I managed to see The Flash, and we'll talk about that later. The much-awaited, according to Tom Cruise, one of the best movies ever made. It's not, spoiler. I managed to watch an episode of Black Mirror, as I already mentioned, and I have to give a shout-out to, because it came out on HBO a couple of months ago. Now it's finally, for any listeners in the UK, it's out on Sky and out on Now TV. I'm sure you guys can find a way to watch them all as well. One of my favorite shows of the last 2 years, 100 Foot Wave, season 2 is finally here. I started watching it yesterday, and I'm already on the last episode. That's how much I love this show. It's my go-to to watch, if I'm cooking, I put it on the iPad, and then I turn back onto the TV to eat. For me, it is like endlessly watchable, because it's almost like a meditation. I've had an obsession with like the sea and like waves and stuff, and the calming effect that has on me. So it's like a perfect like amalgamation for me, like to see the cinematography in it, and especially I'm now really appreciating the soundtrack by Philip Glass is absolutely incredible. Again, you do not have to be a fan of surfing or big wave surfing. You don't need to have heard of surfing, because they will explain everything to you in the first season. It's more about the people, and it's more about their connections to the sport, and it's more about their connections to their own families, and the way they push their bodies to the limit to do the things that they do. And as you can see in the poster there, the waves that they're riding,
Jesus,
these 60 to 80 feet monsters. It's if you go outside your house and you stand outside your front door and you look up towards your roof, that's how big these waves are that they're riding.
Jesus,
It's ridiculous. And like for me, it's like it's an adrenaline rush and almost a meditation at the same time to watch it. And I'd be like, I can't sing its praises enough. It's kind of now, it's filling the Succession and Barry shaped hole in my heart, which is very difficult to deal with right now.
But is there a storyline, Joe, or is it?
Yes, there is. It's basically probably the main character. It says there in the stars is Garrett McNamara, who was basically, he's the first big wave surfer to discover this place in Portugal, which is now one of the best big wave locations in the world. And I guess you would say he's the main character for most of the first season, but then it brings other characters in. And in fact, it mentions there the third guy, Andrew Cotton. A lot of season 2 is about him. And it's actually quite sad, like stuff that he's gone through like throughout the show. And it's very, very raw, very emotional, and very candid. Like it's surprising the things that these people admit to on camera.
Nice.
I think it's fantastic. And the cinematography, the soundtrack, it's almost like a cinematic masterpiece, but put into a series of 6 episodes per season.
Lots of drone footage, I would imagine, right?
Yes, but it's drone footage on another level, because again, when you think about how big these waves are and how close these drones are getting to these surfers whilst they're on these waves, and it's not even that, it's people out on jet skis filming, helicopters, it's a whole massive production.
Nice.
But yeah, that's basically been my week. How about you?
Nice. So, in my case, obviously, like I said, I watched all 5 episodes of Black Mirror. I watched some with my girlfriend, some on my own. I watched the last one today. It was the Scotland episode I watched today. Watched it at work, because obviously I had nothing to do today for exams, and I had finished my corrections. I watched The Flash as well. Talk about that in our review section. I wanted to watch the next episode of The Crowded Room. Unfortunately, I had literally no time, so I'll probably get onto that today after the episode. Obviously, I watched Return to Seoul before our interview with David Shu, and I loved that movie. Highly recommended to basically everyone. First of all, it is a fantastic performance by Park Jimin, by Park Jimin. In her debut performance, truly unbelievable that this is her debut performance. The storyline is very emotional, very, very, very powerful storyline. The direction, I mean, I know we interviewed him, so I might be a bit biased, but the direction is just so beautiful. And in our interview, we got to talk about like his color choices, and like how he didn't want to go with the usual tradition, like yellowish like tinge we see in movies today, but he wanted to go for a more powerful red or powerful blue, according to obviously because there it has different phases of her life. So there are time jumps in the movie. So every time jump, there's a different color, which is focused on to bring out obviously elements of the plot. And that was beautiful. That was stunning. So this is, I believe, his second like big movie directed by him. By David Shu, and I was truly impressed and really, really looking forward to what he does next. Highly recommend it to everyone, for everyone to watch, to be honest. The main performance by Park Jimin as Freddy is really particular, because she really does a lot to try and break that patriarchal view we have of movies where a female character has to kind of be nice, has to smile to everyone and be likable. And she really isn't. She's more of a anti-hero. But we're not used to seeing females as anti-heroes. We're usually used to seeing the men, the guys, as the anti-hero. So it was really, really interesting, the way her performance in this, and like even he was talking to us, David Shu was talking to us about her choice in the outfits, and how she didn't want to be like super sexy with a short dress, but wanted this like jacket. This jacket was her choice, for example, the actress's choice. So I loved watching it, and obviously I loved listening to David Shu talk about the different choices they made in this movie, because it's a fantastic movie. So those are my thoughts on Return to Seoul. Fantastic movie. Everyone should watch it, to be honest. Apart from that, I think that's pretty much my week. I wanted to watch the next episode of The Idol, and I guess, Joe, we can talk about it really quickly now.
Yeah.
So I've only watched episode 1 and 2.
Same.
I don't know if I want to watch another episode. I'm going to be honest. And I should have stopped at episode 1. And in the last 15 minutes of episode 1, that should have been my cue to say, yeah, this is not for me. Joe, your thoughts?
You see, now, I completely empathize and understand you, and to an extent, I agree. But a funny thing happened. Upon finishing episode 2 last week with my girlfriend, we both kind of like looked at each other, and I could tell that like both of us had the same thought of, this show is really shit, but we have to keep watching it. Just because I have to know what happens. I'm so baffled by so many decisions in this show that I don't understand. And they mainly revolve around Tedros, the character of The Weeknd, and what he's doing. And now I listened back to your episode and you called his performance a train wreck. Now, I think he's bad. He's definitely not a good actor. But when everyone was saying like, oh, this is the worst performance ever, I was expecting a train wreck like you said. And I don't think he's not a Tommy Wiseau in The Room kind of bad. That's a train wreck of a performance.
Not a Tommy Wiseau, but not far away either, I'm going to be honest with you, in my opinion.
No, I mean, because then it's a lot of the writing is letting him down, because his character has all of the goofiest lines that there are. Like that sex scene, me and my girlfriend were like, I was questioning like, is this meant to be cringe? Is it meant to be funny? Is it trying to be sexy? And I'm like, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And then he says that one line where it's like the close up on his face, and like we just both started laughing. But it's bizarre. And do you know like the story of The Idol, what it originally was going to be?
No.
So there's a writer-director, a female named Amy Seimetz. Now, I know who Amy Seimetz is because have you heard of Shane Carruth? Or the film Primer?
No.
So, small background. Primer was a really, really obtuse but like cheaply done, and it's much like cult beloved science fiction film written and directed by this guy called Shane Carruth, which he starred in as well. He then made a second film called Upstream Color, which again, very cult beloved and done very cheaply. And I believe Amy Seimetz starred in that film, or was a co-writer on Upstream Color. But she was also Shane Carruth's girlfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And basically she became, she did star in Upstream Color, along with Shane Carruth as well, because he had a knack for starring in his films. Now, his career is dead in the water because she went public with outing him as an abuser and got an actual like proper legal restraining order against him.
Mm-hmm.
And she's done a couple of her own things since. There's actually a film of hers I've been wanting to watch for ages, but it's just one that keeps falling further and further down my list because it has pretty good reviews. But she was meant to do The Idol. Apparently, it was her idea where she wanted Lily Rose Depp, and she wanted it to be a commentary on the sexualization of pop stars and people in the industry from a female perspective. Now, that to me sounds really interesting.
Yes, 100%.
And The Weeknd was going to be involved because she wanted to put an actual pop star in it. And he came in as an actor and as a producer as well. Now, allegedly, the rumors go, is that his character was meant to be like just a recurring side character. He wasn't meant to be anything very big. Allegedly, he did not like that, and he checked out as a producer, and like he pulled out of the project. That fell apart because they couldn't get it off the ground. And allegedly then he came back years later after forming a friendship with Sam Levinson and brought the project back. And you see the credits at the end of each episode is story by Sam Levinson and Abel Tesfaye, who is The Weeknd. So I don't know what they're trying to do. Like, I don't know if you saw, there was some interview he did like last week where he tried to claim that it's actually a comedy and we should be laughing.
No, I didn't read this.
But I don't know if that's just him trying to save face because he's seeing all the videos of people laughing out loud at his performances. I don't know, but like I mean, I'll finish this with saying I will be our resident idol watcher on this show because
Yes, please, because I can't.
it's a pity because the initial premise is really good. Its writing is really bad. Its cinematography is bizarre to me. It doesn't make any sense, and it's the same cinematographer from Euphoria, a show which I really enjoy. Its color and the fact that it's shot on film, it's beautiful. It is beautiful.
It is beautiful. No, it is beautiful to look at. That 100% I will agree.
But even like for the little bit I know about cinematography, and like I shoot a lot of, I mean, I work as a content producer. I shoot stuff myself. It just doesn't make any sense how it's going from like these really intimate, really close up and somewhat shaky angles to then a really smooth, wide-angled, like gimbal shot panning around a subject. I'm just like, these styles. What you say as a director and as a cinematographer, the camera should be telling you something. At like 9 times out of 10, otherwise it's a bit of a throwaway shot. The camera's telling me nothing in this show, and it's a bizarre mess that I'm really in deep in. Because I have it's only going to be 6 episodes, so it's going to be short.
Yeah,
and I have to know how it ends because of like stuff that happened in the second episode. Like, what the fuck was that part where the guy's like grinding with like the electric collar on? Like, what the? And the weirdest part of the episode that like it basically ruined mine and my girlfriend's night because it was stuck in our head the whole evening after that. What the fuck was that song at the end of the episode? As if it was trying to say something deep about the psyche and character of
I don't
Jocelyn.
remember the song, Madonna. What?
Thank God I've forgotten now. It was something like, "This is my family and we don't get on very well."
Oh, yeah, the one they were singing.
It was
What
that girl
that?
who was just naked all the time and just playing the piano by herself. Like,
Why was she naked all the time?
I mean, she likes being naked. Like, another thing I can't understand about this show is what they're doing. Like, Lily Rose Depp, to be fair to her, she's doing a lot with a little because her writing is not good as well, but she's got good energy and she's convincing in the emotions. But her character arc so far has been, she's a pop star that sings about being a freak and really horny and sexy, and then people are surprised when a picture of her with cum on her face goes onto the internet. And then people just, every time she does something a little bit wild, people are like, you should feel bad for her, her mother died. And that's her character so far. I don't know how many times we've been told in, an hour and a half of television that this girl's mother is dead.
Oh my God.
and like, yes, that's sad and it should be an emotional thing. But I don't care now that her mother is dead. It like, to be fair, I did like at the beginning of the last episode, the like producer, like head bitch that there was, who just like went hard at her about not releasing that version of the song. That was actually the best part of writing on this show so far.
That was really, that I actually did enjoy that part, which is the reason why I finished episode 2. Yeah. Because I really enjoyed the first part, like the first part where she was telling her, listen, no, we obviously cannot release this fucking, Allah's sex sounds. What the fuck was, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah. And that's another thing as well. Like, and I mean, I don't love pop music, but I can admit when something is really catchy and it would probably do well in this day and age. Her music sucks. Like, am I supposed to believe that this person like has sold like millions of records before?
And her taste in music sucks.
Yeah.
So like, if she's being convinced by Tedros so easily to do that shit in music,
I know, like
she's obviously not got the talent for this stuff.
Yeah, that's another thing that I don't understand as well. Why? Like, okay, like they're trying to sell like this like narrative of like this like broken young woman and she's in this industry which exploits her so much. But she is a young woman with the world at her feet with a lot of money and a lot of fame, and she's admittedly very good looking, and she could have anyone on earth, but the person that she wants is the guy. Creep. The guy with a rat tail who owns a club in Los Angeles, is that really?
And he has zero, null, zero, like a big fat zero charisma as well.
Yes, exactly.
And nothing going for him. Like,
he's just hollow. Like he's. That's why it's so bizarre. Like even the stuff like about like the Prince stuff that they keep bringing into it, which is like, I mean, The Weeknd has never been shy about idolizing Prince and trying to copy everything Prince has done before. So I'm not fucking surprised that they've brought an incredible artist and like trailblazer like Prince into this show. God rest his soul. Like with the whole like thing, like they mentioned Prince in the first episode, and then he goes to the house and, oh my god, she's got a picture of Prince on her wall. Oh my god, what a coincidence! Yeah, we've talked about this for way too long, but I will be finishing The Idol. You can bet your bottom. Like, I don't think it's good. I think it's very bad, but I will finish it.
Yep. So you take care of that, Joe.
I have to know where it goes. I have to know what Tedros does next.
Like, listen, I'm no prude. As in, I like my movies to be sexy, and I like for there to be, but no, this is not for me. I'm sorry. And like, give me a good, serious drama about the over-sexualization of Hollywood actresses. 100%, give me that, and it makes sense for certain stuff. But this is not serious stuff. Yeah. Like from Succession, you are not serious people.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not serious now. And that's the thing, right? The Idol comes right after Succession and Barry End, so it makes it look even worse.
Yeah, it's taken that Sunday night slot as well. It's brutal.
Yeah, and coming, like you mentioned, the cinematography, coming from the cinematography of Succession to this, it's like.
The thing is, it's not even that. Like, they released this at Cannes Film Festival. Like,
they did.
Why?
Oh my
yes. God. Critics got to see it for the first time. I think the first couple of episodes at Cannes. You went to one of the biggest film festivals and film markets in the world, and you showed off your beautiful yet really trashy and poorly written, poorly acted drama that has so far, with only 6 episodes, 2 episodes in, has said nothing about the industry that it's in, apart from the things that we already knew.
Yeah. Like the bizarre decision to showcase Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I don't get that either.
I get that a bit more because like it was pretty predictable that Harrison Ford's going to get an honorary award.
Yes, for that, but the reviews from that were quite bad.
That's where it's kind of come back to bite them, I think.
So now people are like, is it that good? But anyways, I think we've spoken about the Idol more than it deserves. Shall we get into the trailers, Joe?
Sure.
So we've got 4 trailers. We're going to start off with one. I'd actually quote all of them on Netflix. All of them are Netflix.
Franco's done us a favor. We can bring this up and have a live reaction. 49 minutes ago, the Kraven the Hunter Red Band trailer dropped.
Oh, shit. So let me find it really quickly. So, and anyways, we'll react to that last podcast, Joe. In the meantime,
cool.
Then I'll look it up. So let's start off with this. This is a Netflix trailer. Trailer for One Piece, which I believe, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, is a manga, right?
It was a manga and anime series. I believe it's still ongoing.
Still ongoing. So why would they make a live action?
I could be wrong, and if any of my weeby friends are listening to this, they're ripping their hair out and they want to kill me right now.
Anyways, to get an idea of the story, the trailer shows off Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Sanji in live action form, as well as beloved supporting characters like red-haired Shanks and Buggy the Clown, ending with Luffy's iconic Gum pistol attack. Okay?
No disrespect to fans of One Piece, but this sounds stupid. It just does. And also, yes, One Piece is still ongoing, and it could apparently end in 2024 or 2025.
Okay, all right. So, based on Eiichiro's Oda's iconic manga of the same name, the story follows Monkey D. Luffy, who gains the powers to turn his body to rubber after eating a devil fruit. He ventures around the fantastical world of exotic islands and vast oceans in search of the legendary treasure known as One Piece. Okay, let's have a look at the trailer. From the little bit that I saw, the CGI effects of his special powers looked really bad. It's
Yeah.
another Netflix production which has the digital yellow tinge that I absolutely cannot stand.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it's the cameras they're using, but it's a really funny thing. Whenever they try to do anime live action, it just always looks cheap, and that this looks cheap. So it's okay.
Even the CGI.
Yeah, no.
It's pretty bad.
It's like why can't we just leave animation be animation? It's beautiful animation, especially the style of like anime. Anime is
Yep.
that ship looked like
That
dog shit.
ship.
That was
What?
a shit, not a ship. That looked terrible.
Oh my god. What?
That's horrendous. That's like
This is really mad. This is really
I can find effects on Motion Array where I get my effects from.
like, look
That's
at
better
this,
than
man.
that.
It looks like, when you're playing a game, Joe, and the game kind of lags and the image doesn't render completely.
Yeah, when the textures haven't all come in.
And the textures, haven't all come in, and then everything's like a Lego block.
Yeah.
Jesus, it's reminding me of that.
Again, like just it's an ongoing anime and manga which has not finished yet. Obviously, it's beloved, has a huge following, and it works in the animated medium because it's wild. Like it's about a guy with rubber fucking limbs.
Boy,
Just leave it alone. We didn't need this, and this is from the company that said, "Oh, we're not going to give directors millions of dollars to make vanity projects." When they said that about when they gave Scorsese money to make The Irishman.
Lallo, August 31st. So this is coming out quite
Coming soon, Jesus Christ.
So they don't have a lot of time to improve those VFX, to be honest. Jesus. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, because I'm sure they have quite a big budget for this, because I'm assuming this is quite a popular anime and manga.
It's huge, One Piece. It's very, very, very well loved.
But the thing is, anime is good because it can showcase stuff that you cannot showcase in live action movies.
Yeah.
Or at least it's cheaper to showcase in an anime than in a live action movie. But like certain stuff I'm sorry, does not translate well in live action. And this goofy rubber hand thing, I'm sorry.
It doesn't
This
work.
just doesn't work in a live action movie now, or a live action series now. Again, this is a trailer. We're just judging the trailer. So if it comes out and it turns out to be one of the best Netflix series ever,
Yeah.
well,
And if
props to them.
even if it comes out and fans of One Piece like it, fair enough. It does not look good. Put it that way.
No, it does not. And the history of live action anime is not.
I don't
good.
actually know. There is one good live action anime. I forgot the name, by Takashi Miike, who's an incredible Japanese director. I forgot it. Something Sword. Oh my god!
I'm not an anime person.
Blade of the Immortal. That was it. I remember watching it.
Blade of the Immortal.
I remember watching it, not knowing it was based on an anime, and thinking like, this is really wacky and really strange, but also really fun, and it feels like an anime. And it turned out it was based on an anime.
Okay. Blade of the Immortal. Never heard of it.
I really enjoyed it. It's something only Takashi Miike could do.
Yeah.
Because he's got a certain style.
Yeah. Okay, so that is the first trailer, One Piece teaser trailer. Next up, Joe, I believe you haven't watched Money Heist, right?
I have not.
And you were telling me why before.
It's because I have this medical condition. It's called dumb brain. And when a lot of people, especially people who admittedly, because I'm an arrogant film snob, whose opinions I don't really trust all the time, when a lot of those people come to me and tell me how much I should watch something, I do the arrogant thing and tend not to watch it. And Money Heist was one of those things. And look, there are people whose opinions I take almost as gospel, people whose opinions I really respect, who have watched the show and they have loved it. A lot of people have said it's a bit like a telenovela, like Spanish telenovelas. Not really my thing. To be honest, I don't feel like even My brother had watched it, said he enjoyed the first 2 seasons, but then the third one completely went to shit for him.
Yeah, same.
But if fans are excited, I'm happy for the fans. I'll never be unhappy for a fandom being happy about something.
So just like your brother Joe, I really liked. I really like, because I'm not like some of the people who say, "Oh, it was always really bad." I disagree. I thought the first season, especially, was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So no shame from me. I really enjoyed the first 2 seasons. Second season was quite decent as well, but the issue started from the third season. This did not need a third season. But one of the reasons why the third season was not as good was because the character of Berlin, upon whom this series is based, was kind of, how am I going to put it, forced in. I don't want to give spoilers for the first 2 seasons, but I kind of have to. Actually, I don't. Because the character of Berlin shouldn't have been in season 3, but somehow he is kind of forced in, right? And that was really affected the quality. Because Berlin was my personal favorite character from all the characters in the first 2 seasons of Money Heist. Very charismatic. He's obviously clearly evil and a psycho, but at the same time, he's super charismatic. And the actor really pulls it off. So it's not like I like him because he's a good person. Actually, quite the opposite. He's a horrible person. But I like watching horrible persons on television.
Yeah,
like,
that's
I
why
think
we like
that's been.
Succession.
Yeah, exactly. and he pulls it, and the actor pulls it off. So I don't know. I'm sure most people will be quite negative about this, especially film snobs and probably people on Prickly Pears will probably be hating on this. But I personally am not as negative because I think the actor can pull off the role. The character is an interesting one, and I mean, we'll see. Is this the Wes Andersonization of Money Heist? I guess we'll find out.
I
Reference, obviously, to Franco.
can't believe Franco used that term. Genuinely.
Love it. So the storyline is basically his plan is to steal 44 million euros in one afternoon. From the world of Money Heist, La Casa de Papel comes Berlin. This is obviously a prequel series. We've got the names of the characters. For now, they mean nothing to us. It's an 8-episode heist drama that hails from Money Heist creators Esther Martinez, Lobato, and Alex Pina. The series is written by Lobato, Pina, David Olivia, so on and so forth. Pedro Alonso's Berlin was introduced during the first installment of Money Heist. Character originally died during, well, there's a spoiler, during the first season's finale. However, thanks to fan reception, Alonso was able to reprise the role in the final seasons, where he appeared in flashback scenes. So we don't really get much about the story, just the fact that obviously they have to steal these 44 million euros. I guess we'll find out. I'll probably watch it. I stopped watching Money Heist though after the second season. So, sorry, I watched the third season, part 1 of the third season, and then I stopped because I didn't like it at all. But I think I'll try this and see whether they can go back to the quality of the first couple of seasons. So that's Berlin. Next up, we have our first AI-generated Netflix movie called Heart of Stone, starring Gal Gadot, Jamie Dornan, and Alia Bhatt in an action-packed Netflix movie. Gal Gadot is going from superhero to super spy in the action-packed first trailer for the international espionage thriller Heart of Stone. By the way, Joe, anyone who's watching this, guys, if you haven't watched The Flash, pause it for just like 1 minute, just 1 minute. All right, you've paused. If you're watching this, you have watched The Flash. Okay, Joe, can I say I cannot stand Gal Gadot's smiling face? Like, it's so awkward. And the same thing happened in what was the other DC movie I watched recently? Which came out and was a massive disaster. Shazam. In Shazam 2, she appears as well. And she's just like standing there smiling. And the camera pans onto her face for like a really long time. She's smiling.
It's a
so
real
weird.
shame. It's a real shame because I really liked her in the first Wonder Woman, and I really liked the first Wonder Woman film, despite me having issues with the third act. but she, despite how funny the scene that she's involved in is in The Flash, I actually really enjoyed that moment. I laughed out loud quite a bit. She didn't need to be there.
No. No. Okay. If you haven't watched The Flash, you can return. Anyway, so Godot joined by co-stars Jamie Dornan and Ali Abad at Netflix Tudum Fan Festival in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where the trio debuted the film's first trailer. Footage features heart-stopping stunts. So anyways, we'll have a look at that. Stone's steely demeanor and adrenaline junkie habits are explained as her boss warns, "You know what you sign up for, no friends, no relationships. What we do is too important. When governments fail, the only thing left is the charter." So, this, I've got my question marks. To be honest with you, some of the shots, I watched this, Joe, some of the shots are not horrific, but overall, looks like just another Netflix movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
it's just, again, the people, I'm not going to spoil anything in The Flash, the people that skipped the Flash spoiler part. I've only really liked Gal Gadot in the first Wonder Woman, and since then I've just been like, this person is not a very good actor. Like, just devoid of emotion.
yeah.
She's basically given the same performance since that first Wonder Woman film in everything she's done since. But she seems to get roles. She's doing something right, I guess. I mean, and she seems to have a thing with Netflix. They did Red Notice with her and Loch and Ryan Reynolds as well.
Did you watch that, Joe?
I didn't, because I heard it was a flaming piece of shit. So I decided to
Good on
save
you.
my sanity. And also, like, I think I've got a harder boycott on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson than I do on Marvel movies at the moment. So. Because he's someone he's been doing the Gal Gadot things before Gal Gadot did it. Of, I'm just going to be the same person in every fucking movie I'm in. But yeah, this just seems like, at least it's not going to be like as expensive as something as like The Gray Man is. But to me, it just looks like more of. It's really funny. Like, Netflix have created their own genre with this spy action bullshit that they tend to make. They make one of them a year of these kinds of films,
basically.
where it is spy drama bullshit, where it's very CGI heavy. There's normally a very well-known actor who's not a very not a very good actor usually, like a Gal Gadot, someone like that. It's a shame to see someone like Jamie Dornan in
Yes,
because I hoped after he did Belfast, which he was terrific in. I hoped he'd move on to bigger and better things, but apparently he's in spy trash for Netflix. So,
yeah, and coming off Citadel, oh my god.
Yeah, again,
it just looks like Citadel.
It could be good. I hate the title. I hate the graphic we just saw there. It could be good. For all I know, I'm just being an arrogant fucking bigot towards this film, and it could be the next Bourne Identity. For all I fucking know, I don't think so. It does not look like it's going to be. But that's my safety net. To me, I have no, as arrogant as it sounds, I have zero interest in ever watching this. Not even on like on a rainy night when I can't go outside and I don't feel like watching anything and I don't know what to watch. If this came up on my Netflix, I'm going, you know what, I'm going to go to bed.
This looks like the kind of movie which will have like a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Will probably be around fifth or sixth most viewed movie on Netflix.
Oh, it'll be in the top 10 for sure.
It'll be number one when it comes out, and overall, like all-time releases, it'll probably be around 5 or 6. Because if you look at the top 10 movies ever watched on Netflix, like most of them are really bad. But they've got like this one big star as a leading role. I don't know if they skew the statistics either, because some of them are a little dubious, but I don't know.
Yeah, this is actually something I wanted to bring up, right? Because you said it would get a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I was always someone who I had to find the right critics and the right kind of like critical sphere to kind of validate my opinions. I think that's how you get a critical palate. You kind of like find reviewers that you like and you find out why they like them, and then you develop your own taste based off that. But the public has kind of done a bit of a U-turn, especially with like the rise of Rotten Tomatoes and it's funny that now the biggest thing you see with a film is a film releases, and it goes like at the time it was like Spider-Man No Way Home debuts with highest Rotten Tomato score of any Marvel movie at 99%, kind of thing. And I feel like the general public, so I'm not talking about people like us, the ones who have a passion for this kind of world, for film. But I'm looking at like Red Notice right now on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 36% from critics, which is, it's probably accurate in terms of its aggregation of it's not a very good film. But it's got a 92% from audiences. Because I've got a theory in this day and age where we don't have like a Siskel and Ebert anymore. We don't have a Roger Ebert who was like a renowned. The days of like the renowned film critic they're gone. People who are enthusiasts like us, we either go to Letterboxd or we have reviewers that we see on YouTube or we have podcasters. Right? Yeah. The general public doesn't have anything but Rotten Tomatoes. And I feel like now, a lot of the general public, if they see a film that gets panned on Rotten Tomatoes, they go, oh, this is just critics being like snooty and elitist, and this film is probably really good. And I think that skews their perception of the film that they actually watch. Because I think a lot of people will see that Rotten Tomatoes score, and it goes both ways. Like if someone is a Marvel fan and they're really excited for the latest Marvel film, and they see that Marvel film gets a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, they're probably going to go in with, this film is fucking amazing because it's got a 98%. Therefore, I'm probably going to think it's amazing. And that, I have discovered that when I started like properly reviewing like films for myself, like keeping a log of my films from when I was like 19, of seeing scores and seeing reviews before going into a film would change my opinion of a film for sure. I've managed to change that nowadays by developing what is my actual taste, and I know what I like, and I think I've got a good scope on what is good and what is bad. But I think the Rotten Tomatoes phenomenon, especially with these Netflix films, it skews a lot of people's opinions. Because I remember, like I mentioned, The Grey Man there. I remember a colleague at work saying to me, "It's like, oh, like have you watched The Grey Man? Like I watched it last night. Like it's fucking incredible. Like you'll really like it." And I'm like, "No, I don't really like the Rousseau brothers." And from critics that I trust, I haven't seen anything that I should watch this film. And it's got a fairly low like Letterboxd score. So I took that to mean like that's not my Bible, but that kind of tells me this film isn't really worth my time, and I'm a pretty busy person. But then he fired back at me as like, oh, but the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is over 90%.
For The Grey Man?
I believe at the time it was.
Oh, wow. This is a very interesting discussion, though, because when I started reviewing movies way back...
90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Oh, my God. Okay. But this is a very interesting discussion, because when I started reviewing movies way back, obviously I used to review movies in my head and I used to write down stuff since I was like 16. But obviously I started my YouTube journey 3 years ago, basically, when COVID started in 2020. And I think one of the most important developments I've had as someone who reviews movies has been to, number one, not let other people's opinions influence the way I go into a movie. Because that's something that I think at the start, in my first year or so, I'm sure I would let like the critics, especially critics' opinions and people's opinions of people who I trust in movies, influence the way I would approach a movie. So I would enter a movie quite negative or quite positive according to what I had heard before. So I think, especially in the past year and a half, I think that's one of the things I've worked on the most as someone who tries to review movies, is to go into a movie really open and trying actually to be as positive as I can. Because I went through the phase of hating every movie I watch. I've been through that phase. And it's not a nice phase, because at the end of the day, if I go to the cinema, even just for a monetary reason, I'm paying, €9 to go watch a movie, €2.50 for popcorn, €1.50 for water. So I'm paying money. So I don't pay money and then have a bad time. I want to enjoy my time at the cinema. Or if I'm with my girlfriend watching a movie on Netflix, I want to have a good time. I don't want to like be all negative and ruin the movie for myself. And I'm sure I've ruined movies for myself in the past. I'm sure it's happened in the past. Like, for example, one movie which I might have ruined for myself was The Last Jedi, because back then I was deep into the like online discourse and the whole discourse about The Last Jedi. So I'm sure that might have been a movie that I ruined for myself, possibly, and I came out hating it.
Yeah.
I came out hating it. So there's stuff that I honestly am too biased to give a real, like, nuanced review. So stuff like, I'll admit, even Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is something that I've loved since I was 8, 9. So again, that's something that, I put aside. Star Wars, again, something I've loved since I was 8, 9. This stuff I find very hard to review objectively. Other stuff, I think, with the years and with experience, I think I've managed to like be able to cut off critics' opinions and go in fresh and with a positive attitude. But if it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. So yeah, this is a very interesting discussion. Very, very interesting discussion to be had about this. But honestly, I think Heart of Stone is going to be really bad.
Way to bring it back.
So I opened YouTube, and the first thing to come up is obviously Kraven the Hunter. So this is going to be us watching it now. First honest reactions. I'm going to put up the audio on my end as well. Joe, I don't know if you want to start at the same time. Shall we play it at the same time?
I should be able to hear it if the audio is on for you, no?
Do you hear the audio through Riverside? Let me try.
I think so. Try play it.
Can you hear it?
No.
No, I probably need to do like. I don't think I can share the audio through.
I can find it.
Yeah. So we'll play it together, and then we'll get the. So on YouTube, the likes are 8.4K and 1.2K dislikes, because I got the dislike app, because I hate the fact that they remove dislikes from YouTube. So Kraven time. Can't wait for the 10-minute standing ovation when Kraven says it's Kravening time. So we basically just saw the whole movie in 3 minutes and 9 seconds. It's definitely Kraven time.
Okay, I'm ready to start when you are. I've got it on 0.
Okay, dogs. So 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so it's bloody at least.
Yes, it has to be. It's Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
This is a shame, because I really like Aaron Taylor Johnson, and I want good things.
I really like Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Okay, Russian voice. Tried to keep a commentary to cover the dead air. I mean, Russell Crowe. Okay.
What the fuck is Russell Crowe in this?
Okay. Dead mother.
We need to get Russell Crowe on the podcast now. He's in Malta.
Yes, definitely. He's doing a lot of accents recently.
He is, right?
For Love and Thunder, yes.
Pope's Exorcist as well. He had an Italian accent in that.
Really CGI tiger. Not a bad CGI tiger, to be fair. No, that kid's, he should be dead.
Jesus. He's not dead.
Okay, we have the whole origin story. See, I didn't know any of this. He's got the blood of a tiger.
Nice. It's Kraven time.
It's giving some of those vibes.
Yeah.
Okay. Christopher Abbott, big fan of his.
Do you think this can be schlocky fun, Joe?
I think it's just a really shit trailer. Okay, hot take. Give me Aaron Taylor Johnson as Wolverine.
Yes.
Because man, if they had gone for like a Logan vibe with this would be cool as shit. It's definitely rated R.
Yes, it's definitely rated R.
Oh shit, it's the guy from White Lotus. I like him.
But they were right when they said we watched the whole movie in 3 minutes, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Jesus, that's one hell of a fucking crossbow. Uh,
Yeah, it's Kraven time. It's true.
I don't think it's not going to be quite as bad as Morbius,
No,
but
no,
like
no.
I'm not a fan of that kind of
Because
one liner.
at least it's a serious actor.
Yeah. Oh shit, Rhino.
So who's the
Oh,
villain, Joe? This Rhino guy.
I mean that was a reveal for Rhino at the end. Whether he's going to be the full blown villain or that's just like a taster. Rhino from Spider-Man. I mean, but yeah,
Okay.
I mean the action
Yeah.
looks
Germany.
okay.
Doesn't look bad
The
though. Like the action doesn't look that bad.
As you said, it if it steers into the skid and being it's really self-aware of how corny some of the writing is, and then it's just really bloody and bombastic action, it could be fun. It could be like a solid 3.5 out of 5, like fun, bloody, almost. It could be the first like B movie superhero movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping from this. Like this is coming out in cinemas, I would assume, right?
Yes, yes.
It's
Sony
not
doesn't
a
have a
Disney
streaming
Plus thing.
platform. No, it's Sony. It's not Marvel.
Because it's Sony, but yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely coming out in cinemas. Is Morbius on Disney Plus? I don't think so. I don't think it is.
You know, I hope
feel
so.
like-
'Cause maybe I'll finally watch it.
Don't. But yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm not as negative on this as I was before. Listen, I don't know. I don't think you were here. I watch a podcast in which they have different
You mentioned the
actors
previous
on it.
episode where they
And
said it's a bit of a train wreck.
there was an actress who said she heard from other actors that it's really bad, like really, really bad. So I don't know. The trailer
Yeah,
isn't amazing, but I'm probably looking forward to it more than I was before. So at least that's a good sign. Like
yeah.
I have hopes that this can be like a really schlocky, fun, like you said, 3 out of 5 movie where you come out thinking, okay, I didn't waste
Yeah.
2 hours of my life. It was
'Cause
fun, at least.
the thing is, like, the lines we've seen Aaron Taylor Johnson deliver in that trailer were all pretty corny.
Yes, that's true.
But if they kind of, as I said, steer into the skid of that, and you've got a really corny main character anti-hero, and then you have a villain who's like just as corny with a pretty stupid motivation, and then it's just like really bloody violence, you could have a really schlocky and fun, ultra-violent superhero flick. I don't know if that's going to be the case, because
I mean, the fact it's rated R already makes it better than Morbius, let's be honest. Because Morbius was really weird, a really weird mix of like tonally, it was an absolute disaster.
These Sony movies, I mean, for me, it screams that they're just trying to use stuff with the Superman license, so they don't have to give it up and fully sell it to Disney.
Yes, 100%, 100%.
But they just don't know what they want to be. Like I remember when Venom first got announced. First, this was like it's going to be really dark and horror elements, and it's going to be rated R. But then it came out and it was PG-13, and it was like 2003's Hulk movie. It was really bad.
I didn't hate Venom though, to be honest.
I really didn't.
That was a 3 out of 5 movie for me, for example. It was fun.
No, I really didn't like. I thought Venom. Someone like dug it up from a time capsule where it was made in the early 2000s, and for some reason released it in like 2018 or whenever it was it came out. Venom 2 was bizarre as well.
I didn't watch Venom 2 though.
I watched Venom 2 on a flight home from South Africa after already traveling for 7 hours, and like I put it on thinking it would put me to sleep, but it was like so intriguingly stupid and bizarre. I stayed awake. It was just, yeah, I just don't, I like, are they universe building? Are these standalone films? What is the plan, Sony?
I don't know. It'll be interesting though.
I don't
quite
want
looking
a
forward to this.
universe. I don't want a universe, but if you like
No.
the fact that they feel like they have to do the origin story again, like this is a rated R film. They're not trying to sell this to kids because you can't sell a rated R film to kids. I fully believe most adults, if they go into a movie theater and you're just presented with this guy who has these animal-like powers and strength, I don't fucking need to know why. I can just accept that that's what he is, and he has these superpowers. I don't care that he went hunting with his fucking dad and got bitten by a lion and somehow their blood got infused, because that's wasting so much precious time of what you could just put into a better story with a standalone film, or if you wanted to do like maybe a series of like Kraven films, you know? But yeah, I don't think Sony have an idea of what to do with this license, and they're just doing it to keep it away from Disney because they know it's gold.
Yeah, probably. But at least then we get something like Across the Spider-Verse. So
at least the animated division is doing
knows
good
what they're
things.
doing.
I think Craven's a shame because you've got a good actor like Aaron Taylor Johnson, and you could have like a very Logan-esque type Western meets superhero flick, which is the perfect thing for Kraven the Hunter, to be completely honest. Like, if you had it like here's my pitch. Perfect fucking Kraven the Hunter movie is you have superhero Kraven the Hunter meets Rambo First Blood. Okay? You have Drifter character who's misunderstood, who gets taken in and abused by the police and gets fucking revenge. That's perfect. I'm the best at ideas with superheroes ever. Sony, I'm available for jobs.
Interesting. To conclude our trailers, and that's pretty much it, because then we got some very short news pieces to talk about. We got behind-the-scenes images of Rebel Moon, which will be, obviously, Zack Snyder's next movie. Now, this is an interesting one. Now, I'm not the biggest Zack Snyder fan. Don't know about you, Joe. I like his previous stuff prior to DC. I really liked Man of Steel. Obviously, I'm a little biased. I know Batman vs. Superman is a horrible movie, but I really did like it. And I'm one of those Batman vs. Superman apologists. The rest is what it is.
Yeah.
The rest is what it is. But the Snyder cut, I did quite enjoy.
Yeah.
As well, to be honest. So overall, I look forward to his stuff. He had that zombie movie as well, though. What was that zombie movie?
The one set
on
in
Netflix.
Las Vegas. Yeah, it actually wasn't bad. It was like fine. Was it?
My girlfriend hated it, but I was okay. I mean,
yeah, it was totally fine. It was actually an interesting take on the zombie genre. So
I think I gave it a 3 out of 5 when it came out.
Yeah.
Jesus, what was that called? Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead. Strat has 5.8 on IMDb. No.
Yeah.
Interesting. But anyway, so here we get our first images of this big budget Netflix movie. Now, apparently, the lore for this is so interesting that they're trying to develop an MMO for it as well.
Okay.
Now, I love MMOs, so if they make a good quality MMO out of this, I'll be in, because big science fiction MMO with like different factions. I'm all in. I really need a big MMO to since stopping World of Warcraft. I need another big MMO to play. And then here we get the first images as well. What do you think about the CGI, Joe?
I mean, it's by today's standards not the worst I've seen, but it's also not the best I've seen.
Not great, eh? But obviously there's still, I think there's...
Yes, we're still a while out from this film.
Still a while out.
I've actually been interested in this film for a while. When I was younger, I was a very big fan of Zack Snyder's. I really liked 300. I still, to this day, am one of the biggest defenders of Watchmen. I think Watchmen is one of the best comic book adaptations there has ever been.
Agreed.
Fuck anyone that says that the change he made to the ending is stupid? No. It makes much
No.
more sense in the context of
No.
releasing that to the general public. If you had gone with the
100%.
original ending, people who would have got in cinemas who'd never had to watch it would have gone, what the fuck was that? But I'm not like Zack Snyder's a fucking master and he can do no wrong. He's not a very good writer and he doesn't do well with dramatic scenes. He is fucking excellent, one of the very best when it comes to action and to stylization of footage, like shooting something. The guy is born to make like music videos and trailers look as fucking cool as possible. I have a lot of sympathy for him though, because he loves the work that he does. He's a very passionate artist. He obviously had the tragedy of his daughter committing suicide when he was making the Justice League. I'm like you. I quite like Man of Steel. I think Batman v Superman has a lot of problems, but I also think it has a lot of good things about it as well. I think the extended version is a lot better than the cinematic one.
And visually, it's great, man. The CGI in that,
fantastic.
It's so impressive.
As in terms of visuals, he's a master. He has a particular style. He loves slow motion, but he knows how to do it.
Yes. Sometimes he does overdo it a little bit, though, with the slow motion.
But when I heard he initially wanted to make a Star Wars film, but they wouldn't let him. But then he had his own idea, and it was going to be like kind of like samurai meets like space stuff. Now this looks like Conan the Barbarian meets Yojimbo meets Star Wars, which it looks cool as hell.
There's the Nazi faction. I think there's going to be lots of different factions. That's the impression I got from like the different costumes and the banners that they were using. But then at the same time, there's this like samurai character as well. Yeah. There's some samurai. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. I like the vibes I get from this.
Yeah. What he's going for looks really cool. And it's definitely going to look really cool because he's good at that. I just hope in the downtime he's had between Army of the Dead and now Rebel Moon, I hope he's harnessed some more writing skill or even employed other writers to work with him. He's someone he'd do really well with a.
There's two writers with him. There's Shay Hatton writing this, who has worked on John Wick Chapter 4.
Okay.
Day Shift, Army of Thieves. Oh, Army of Thieves. I didn't mind that. I did quite like Army of Thieves. It was a Netflix movie. Yeah. Army of the Dead and John Wick Chapter 3. He did the screenplay for John Wick 4 and John Wick 3, which is a good sign. And also working with him on this is Kurt Johnstad. Kurt Johnstad, who wrote Atomic Blonde. Oh, God, 300 Rise of an Empire. Did you watch the second 300, Joe?
It was fine.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good.
It was a lot of nothing.
It was a lot of nothing, yeah.
It was someone trying to make a Zack Snyder film.
Yes, that's it. Someone trying to make a Zack Snyder film.
And not making a very good one, you know?
I'm going to be honest. When the original 300 came out, I was kind of in my edgy period. I was 13 then. So when it came out, my personality became 300.
I loved and still love to this day 300. I have the graphic novel back in Malta in a box somewhere. To this day, I still love 300. Like people say, like, oh, but like there's like not much to it. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't fucking need to be because it's cool. Like, who cares?
It's so fucking cool. Jesus, it's so beautiful to look at. Like every image is stunning.
That's his thing. He knows where to put a camera.
And all right, yes, the dialogue is what it is. But don't tell me it's not corny fun. Like some of the dialogue is so corny fun.
It's a really expensive B movie.
Love it. Well, obviously I haven't watched it in like years. Yeah. Like I haven't watched 300 since I was like, I think 18, 19. So I might watch it now and think, wow.
It still rules.
It still does. In my head, it does. So that's Rebel Moon. Hopefully we'll get a full-blown trailer very soon. I'm really looking forward to that. Very much looking forward to that. And the MMO. Looking forward to information about the MMO based on that. So the IMDb line for it is: a young woman seeks out warriors from other planets to fight the tyrannical armies terrorizing her peaceful colony. So I guess we get to see different warriors from different like factions and cultures, which is probably why we have the samurai character. We have That'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. And if
Yeah.
they have this big budget, there's Charlie Hunnam, who I like. There's Anthony Hopkins. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sofia Boutella. Do you know who that is, Joe?
She's been in a lot of stuff. She's just never really had like a starring role. She was in Atomic Blonde. She had a role in that. She was in. It's actually
Kingsman, The Secret Service.
She was in Kingsman. But she was in a Gaspar Noé film. Oh my god, what was it? The one where they all get like fucked up in a factory. Oh my god.
Oh, she was in the Cabinet of Curiosities as well.
Yes, she's been in loads of things. Very, very good physical actress. She was in Star Trek Into Darkness, which like wasn't a very good film, but who cares?
Okay. Oh, Star Trek, yeah, true. And she was in this. Like this series is really highly rated. SAS Rogue Heroes, and I saw a review for it as well on Prickly Pears. It's really positive. She's in that as well.
Okay.
This is one I need to watch in summer because I've heard such good stuff about it. SAS Rogue Heroes. It's got an 8.1 on IMDb.
Okay.
It looks very good. Anyways, so those are our trailers this week. Moving on. This is a movie we'll be reviewing, but we can now talk about the quite meager box office returns by The Flash. Well, this is turning out to be a bigger surprise than all those cameos. I don't agree with this. I think it's not a surprise at all. Normally, when a studio starts screening a movie well before release day in a bid to generate positive buzz, it's because the product is excellent. But nobody could have expected audiences across the globe to react to Warner Brothers' The Flash with a collective shrug. The big-budget superhero spectacle debuted well below expectations at the domestic box office, where it generated only $55 million across 3 days, and it didn't fare all that better globally either. Movie made $75 million from 79 overseas markets, for a global debut of $139 million. Studio is including domestic estimates, but for the extended 4-day week. Oh, now it's a 4-day weekend. The weekend is always getting longer now to be able to say the amount is more, which is currently pegged at $64 million. By comparison, Batman v Superman. Oh, that's not fair though, comparing it to Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
But what's fair is comparing it to Black Adam, and Black Adam made more, generated 1 million more.
Black Adam does have The Rock though,
and Black Adam has The Rock. That's true. In its global debut, but we now know how that movie tanked shortly afterward, concluding its theatrical run with under $400 million worldwide. The Flash cost a reported $200 million to produce, minus the reported $100 million spent on marketing, which means that it needs to make around $600 million worldwide to break. Wait, how does that work? If it costs $200 million to make, $100 million to market, wouldn't that mean it needs to make 300 to break even?
Yeah, I think they expect the film to make double its budget back in order to break even in Hollywood.
Okay, all right. Well, this movie is not going to do that. That's to be honest. This is probably going to reach Black Adam around 400 million. I don't think it's going to make more than that. Why is this, Joe? So you've watched the movie. Obviously, we won't talk about the quality of the movie. Just like, why aren't people reacting that positively to The Flash?
There's a lot of things. I think for people in the know, people like you and I, like actual film goers, I think they're just checked out on DC. There's the Ezra Miller of it all and the accusations against them. A lot of people will abstain from a film because of those kinds of things. But I think mainly the thing here, now this is coming as a lifelong DC fan. I was never, like, I did like some Marvel characters growing up, but the ones I loved the most, Batman was my bread and butter. Like my best friend at certain times in my life was Batman. Much more a DC fan growing up. People just don't give a shit about The Flash.
True.
They never have. Like, I never have. I care more about the Green Lantern Corps than I do about The Flash.
There's the series, though, the series on CW, which was extremely popular. I had a lot of friends who used to watch it. So there's that. So I don't know. So for me as well, I never really cared much about The Flash either. Like, I never got any of the Flash comics. Mine were always Batman as well.
With the CW show, a lot of that fandom, from what I've seen, felt very betrayed by the Flash, the actor of the Flash in that show not being the Flash in the film. So that's another reason why those people would boycott.
And I saw a lot of them upset that Grant Gustin doesn't even make an appearance, like in the movie.
Yes,
like, you're showing all these cameos and you don't show Grant, which I kind of understand why they feel that way. Like if you've had like 9 seasons, there's lots of seasons of the Flash, not even an appearance. Jesus.
Yeah. But yeah, my main thing is that like, I mean, I went to go see it with my girlfriend, and like, she didn't grow up like loving superheroes, but she certainly knew who Batman was, and she knows who Superman is. She knows who Wonder Woman was. She knows who Spider-Man is. She knows the big ones, you know, the ones that you've heard about. When we went to watch The Flash, she was like, "So what the fuck does the Flash do?" Like, he's always been that kind of like somewhat lame side character to the Justice League, who's extremely powerful, but he's always been the lame one.
Yeah. The Flash works as a side character. That's the point I was going to make then eventually. And the Flash and Ezra Miller's performance works as a side character, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that in our
We'll get
review.
into that with the review. Yeah.
Yep. So that's the Flash. Not a very good return. And I've been seeing a lot of people talking about like James Gunn and how him like claiming that the DCU was over and that the new DC universe. Obviously, that didn't help. Definitely, I think either. I'm sure lots of people are like,
no,
is it worth going to watch it?
I have a theory now, which we'll get into in the review.
Okay, all right. Okay. So we can go through this really quickly. I hate mentioning this stuff. Unfortunately, it's a reality of the fandom. Like I said before, I'm very biased. I love Lord of the Rings. Like I grew up reading the books and watching the movies. I too was not the biggest fan of Rings of Power, so I understand people are upset, but like hearing the stuff that, for example, Ismael Cruz Cordova had to go through, he was the Elven Warrior Arondir in the series, that Prime Video provided an on-set therapist, and man, they really needed it because some of the racist backlash they got was horrific. He revealed it wasn't just attacks on social media. My phone got hacked. I had bank accounts attempts of being hacked. My PayPal got hacked. My friends got messages. I got death threats. I got things mailed to me. People found out my address. It was a lot of that. So, oh, Jesus. It's, and then Orwayne Arthur, who plays the Dwarven Kingdom's Prince Durin, was a bloody great performance by him. I mean, it is infuriating. Like you go, oh God, really? Are we still there as a human race? That drives me wild. The guys have been through a lot to be on the receiving end of things, and I hope one day we will, as a human race, just be one. I mean, it sounds kind of maybe pathetic or dramatic what I'm saying here, but generally just stop racism. Then they talk about like the story itself. What I'm looking, this is Cynthia Dye Robinson, who plays Miriel, Green Regent of Numenor. What I'm looking forward to as we move on to season 2 is allowing that conversation to be in the past and just plow ahead. When you have progress, it's like we're not going to go backward from the things that we've established. I'm ready to acknowledge it and move on from it because I think we've kind of said all there is to say, really. I know that I have. And then, now they get into the story. Darkness has fallen. Let's say that. We're all going through a big journey in season 2. We know that Sauron is here. And Baldry added, I'd say it's a little more action-packed. There's a lot more action. Yeah, it is certainly quicker and there's more happening. We all know that Sauron has been revealed, and therefore what happens when that amount of evil is finally realized? Each person throughout the universe, throughout Tolkien's world, is going to be affected by that. There's always going to be a human choice as to what happens when you introduce to evil, and is there an inherent badness or darkness in you that will be revealed? Or will he move to the good side? So everyone is going to be faced with a dilemma, a moral dilemma, and there are going to be some really difficult choices for each human to take. Anyways, and so on and so forth. So, and then they just mentioned this, which I find a little upsetting. Season 1 is really about an introduction. You're setting the stage for aspects of the story that are maybe a little bit more familiar to audiences because we do know a little bit more of these next few things that happen. That will be part of season 2. But there are a lot of people who have never read the books. They've never seen the movies. So that season 1 setup really is, in my mind, it's really for those people who are very new to Tolkien. So season 2, you're going to see a lot of storyline start to come true. Joe, I don't know if you want to focus just on the story part or if you want to comment about the racist backlash.
I'm not going to give racists the time of day. I'm going to just say, fuck those people, get a life. That's what I'm going to say to racists. On the story, I actually kind of feel very validated. I mean, you know that I kind of like oppose you on Rings of Power opinions where I didn't love the Rings of Power, but I thought it did get progressively better. And I really did acknowledge, having read The Lord of the Rings and attempted to read the Silmarillion, and I've watched Peter Jackson's trilogy. I can't count how many times I've watched that trilogy of films. It is probably my favorite trilogy of films ever made. I did kind of think to myself, like, they're really taking their time here and taking baby steps because they've got to give this to a new audience. And that's what, like, a lot of people would come and tell me. They'd be like, oh, but the show's so slow and not much happens. And I would always tell them, like, look, they're doing setup. You need to know these things because the world is huge of Middle-earth and Tolkien's world. So I personally, I feel a bit validated that they've come out and they've said, yes, we were doing a lot of setup in season 1 and we're going to move a lot faster now. Again, I was someone where I thought it started quite slow in season 1, got progressively better, and I really, really liked where and how it ended. And I would like the ending. For me, it did the best thing with the ending. It was straight away. I was like, shit. I really wish I could go straight into the next one from here to find out like what's going to happen next. I think it's going to be a lot more substantial the next season. I think.
Do you like the PowerPoint presentation of Mordor, Joe?
That's one of my biggest gripes. That literally with that, I remember like the camera panned over like the lava fields, and I was like, oh my god, it's Mordor. But then the text came up, and I was like, no. I was like, why? To me, that just proved how much they were spoon feeding new audiences. They had to write it on the fucking screen.
It was too much.
I agree. Like that was. I'm not going to like hold this to me like it's my baby. And no, it was great. Parts of the show were not very good. Other parts of the show I thought were very good. Mixed bag, which I thought got better as it went on, and they still made mistakes as they went on, which I'm pretty confident they'll learn from. I think they've got a good cast. They've also now got a decent foundation. I'm looking forward to the next season.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll watch it obviously, but we'll see. I don't want to judge season 2 before it comes out. Obviously, I've already made my thoughts about season 1 quite clear. Wasn't too positive about it. Like you, I've read all the books. Silmarillion, I've read like twice now. I listened to the audiobook of it as well, and I loved listening to the audiobook of Silmarillion. It was easier to consume than reading it.
I'd imagine,
listening to it. And that was lovely. So, I wasn't convinced.
Yeah,
but we won't get into the review.
It's unfortunately just covered in that controversy as well. Like I've even spoken to people that like I thought were like intelligent people who I don't think are racist people, but then they say stupid things. Like I remember speaking to someone. They were like, "Oh, but Arondir, the elf, shouldn't be played by a black actor or a person of color because." Tolkien based The Lord of the Rings on, like, he wanted to create mythology for England and he based it on European folklore, and there wouldn't have been black people in Europe. But like, I fire back with, it's a story that has fucking dragons and dwarves and elves. Who gives a flying fuck what the color of the skin of the actor is? I thought Arondir was cool that he stood out as different from the other elves.
Was actually one of my favorite characters in the series. Like one of the few characters who convinced me they were like someone coming out of Middle-earth. That was, I'm going to be honest with you, one of the few characters who actually convinced me that, listen, this is the kind of character. And the actor as well had the gravitas for the role, which was good.
I liked his point of difference.
More of Arondir, not less.
I liked the point of difference that, yes, he did have a different skin color to other elves, and he did have a different hairstyle to other elves, and that made him stand out more, and it made him ultimately more interesting. And again, if someone fires back, and they put on their fucking stupid hat, and they go, there weren't black people in Europe at that time, what it was based on, it's a fucking fantasy world with people who are 2 feet tall with big hairy feet, and there are dragons, and there are orcs, and there are elves, and if you think that the color of someone's skin messes that up for you, you're a fucking moron. Don't talk to me. Like, your opinion on the show is immediately invalid if you come to me from a fantasy show and you go, no, they shouldn't have that skin color. I immediately go, off you fuck, you're an idiot.
All right, so man, I'm really looking forward to the new season of Rings of Power coming out and us discussing the episodes.
It'll be
It's
good.
going to be so much
It'll be
fun.
a good time in this podcast life for sure.
Definitely. Unfortunately, it's coming out next year. Oh, I wish it was coming out this year, Stra.
Yeah.
This summer would have been perfect. And probably it will be delayed even more now with the whole Writers Guild thing going on. Probably the SAG also will be striking as well. So I will see.
Such is life.
Such is life. To conclude our news, just a quick article about Guillermo del Toro. Obviously, our viewers and listeners probably would have read about Guillermo del Toro talking about him having 1 or 2 final live action movies to complete, and then him focusing completely on animation. Well, I found this article about him talking about stop motion animation, which I found very intriguing and very interesting. He was at Annecy Animation Festival this week. And Guillermo del Toro basically talked a lot about stop motion, obviously coming off his Best Animated Feature Film Oscar for Pinocchio. Stop motion, these are his words, obviously, stop motion is, in my opinion, the most beautiful of all the forms of animation because it's the most intimate and is, quite literally, a connection between the animator and a physical model. It's the closest thing to playing with your toys. That's very true, actually. We are the weird motherfuckers in this room. Your family thinks you're useless, and that's good. All animators are weirdos, but stop-motion animators are the weirdest of them all. They're in the violent lunatic asylum wing. Why? Because they are out executing an art form that is too slow, too painful, too old world, declaring the art form his religion. Saying that he tries to avoid digital sets and effects as much as possible, he declared, I think that we need things that we know are made by humans to recover the human spirit. I love things that look handmade. I fucking hate perfection. Del Toro listed among his influences the first King Kong made, obviously, the works of Hayao Miyazaki and Ray Harryhausen, The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the Argonauts, amongst others. While he prefers not to excessively use 3D animation and digital VFX, obviously there is a space for that as well. Can we not have more flavors? So he goes into that, and he reflects about the fact that he's done 12 movies, but has written 44 screenplays. So if you take this into account, the only advice I can give you is that your rate of productivity versus your efforts will remain frustratingly difficult and frustratingly long. And you will always encounter assholes. My entire career has been about not giving a fuck. I'm going to continue trying to do it. So, Joe, first of all, your thoughts about stop-motion animation and kind of like Guillermo del Toro's very honest, very candid approach to talking about animation here.
I'll start with Del Toro. He's one of my heroes, and more power to him, and I love him deeply. I will watch anything he does, even though it's not always going to be a 10 out of 10, but I don't care. It is always going to be interesting because he's an interesting filmmaker, and he's an interesting person. This is a really wild swing from him, and I love it. I think personally, I think I still really want to see him get his shot at a proper monster movie. Like not The Shape of Water. Like I really want his Frankenstein. Is he still doing Frankenstein?
You see?
I think he was doing Frankenstein. He's been dying to do that film ever since he was born, I think. But yeah, I love stop motion animation. I mean, one of my most beloved, I was going to call it a cartoon, but it's not. One of my most beloved television programs growing up was Wallace and Gromit, which is claymation. So that was like the norm for me to see that kind of animation. And I love it because you see it in like the Aardman productions, or even in something as like, I'm going to say mainstream, inverted commas, as The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's so much more tactful, I think, than regular animation. And I've actually listened to a lot of podcasts on like the production of these kinds of films. And I really like one of my problems with recent films by Leica Studio, who are the studio that did Kubo and the Two Strings. I love Kubo and the Two Strings. I'm not knocking that film at all. But they're doing a very clean version of stop motion. I like it when it's a bit gritty. I like if they're doing claymation and the characters are made of clay. I like when you can see the fingerprints of the artists still on the actual models sometimes.
Yes, Lalo, yes.
It feels very personal in a way when you see that. So I'm happy that he's going to put his power and his mind into that art form, which frankly hasn't gotten enough love in recent years.
True. So To answer your question, Joe, Frankenstein, fresh off the release of his is yet to kick up his leg, which allows. It seems only inevitable given Del Toro's penchant for exploring monster that this Frankenstein adaptation would happen sooner or later.
I know he was in Scotland recently, like within the last year, looking at locations, I think, for Frankenstein.
One insiders close to the project warned that script writing is still underway. Oh, okay, so they're still doing the script writing.
Okay.
Sources have informed that Andrew Garfield, Oscar Isaac, and Mia Goth have all met. Oh, I would love Oscar Isaac to be in it. And that would be a good. And Mia Goth, obviously. That would be interesting. But yes, like you, I would be very much looking forward to a Frankenstein Guillermo del Toro movie. I think his recent movies, I'm going through his list of recent movies. I don't know what was the reaction to Nightmare Alley, Joe, do you remember? I really, really liked it. It was one of my favorite movies that year.
I thought it was too long, but very interesting, and with one of the best endings I'd seen in a while.
The final 30 minutes. The final 30 minutes of that movie.
But just the final shot, I was like, wow,
Yes,
Bradley Cooper was fantastic in it as well.
Yes.
I feel like just no one really cared unless you were like a film enthusiast. It wasn't a film for the general public.
It was nominated for Best Picture as well, though. I was surprised it was nominated.
It was about 2 hours and 50 minutes, like nearly 3 hours.
Yes.
But with a stellar cast, really good twist in it as well.
However, my girlfriend liked it. I mean, my girlfriend watches a lot of stuff, but she's not, she's not like me.
My girlfriend fell asleep, unfortunately.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, no, my girlfriend did fall asleep as well, but it was very long. We started it quite late, and then she continued it. I continued watching it. She fell asleep, and then she watched it the next day. And I liked the final, 30, 40 minutes so much that I watched it again with her. Yeah. Like, when the music kicks in, when you have that, plot twist.
Yeah.
And you have the whole downfall, the downfall had already started, but the real, steep downfall in the last 30 minutes, that music is really good. And the look, the whole vibe, I fuck with that vibe, man. I love that noir vibe. I love it. And Kate Blanchett as the femme fatale was stunning. So I'm a big fan of pretty much, I think, all his movies. Shape of Water, beautiful, loved it. Crimson Peak. Have I watched Crimson Peak? I don't know if I've watched this. I don't think I've watched Crimson Peak.
That's one I've never seen, Crimson Peak, actually.
I haven't. But I fuck with most of his movies. I did actually quite like Pacific Rim. Hellboy, I really liked as well. Pan's Labyrinth, I loved.
Yeah.
Blade 2, Jesus, I forgot he directed Blade 2. I love Blade so much. Oh, I miss those movies. I wish they really could make a really good Blade movie again. Oh,
they won't.
That would be something. They won't. But that's pretty much all our news, Joe. So, first of all, to our viewers and listeners, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, because we forgot to mention that at the start, and Franco will be upset. And don't forget all our socials, as always. Let's get into our reviews now, and I think I can get through the Extraction 2 review really quickly, because I don't have much to say, except that it's a bloody cool movie. It's one of those movies which you watch and you're like, oh my god, that's so cool, and oh, that shot is so good, and oh my god. I had a blast watching it. Now, I have quite a history with Extraction, because Extraction 1 was actually my first YouTube review on my YouTube on this YouTube channel. So Extraction 1 was actually my first ever review. It came out at the beginning of COVID, and that's obviously when I started. Cinemas were closed, so there were no movies to go watch in the cinema. So obviously, I paid for Netflix, and I watched my first Netflix movie and reviewed it. So I did quite enjoy the first Extraction. I believe I had given it a 3 out of 5. Probably I'll give it a 2.5 when I watch it now. But this second Extraction is just bigger, better. Chris Hemsworth, as always, pulls off the role really well. He's got that really serious look. It's not perfect. So let's be honest, some of the dialogue is pretty bad. But before I get into that, after barely surviving his grievous wounds from his mission in Dhaka, Bangladesh, Tyler Rake is back and his team is ready to take on their next mission. And basically, their next mission is to save his wife's sister and her family, basically, who are kidnapped by her husband, And obviously, she doesn't want to be with her husband. So they're kidnapped and stuck in prison, and they want to get out. Now, talking about prison, there's a particular scene in this movie which you've seen parts of in the trailer, because the trailer mostly focuses on that particular scene, the prison scene, which is stunning, absolutely stunning. It's 16 minutes, non-stop. Obviously, the cuts are edited out and hidden very well and very tactfully, but it's 16 minutes of continuous non-stop action, and the action is shot beautifully. Most of it is handheld. There's a point where we see in the trailer as well, where like there's Chris Hemsworth was hit on the back of his head, and you see like the camera switching to like focusing on his face. It's beautifully done. It's really beautifully done, and you can tell that the director Sam Hargrave, I know he did the first Extraction. I don't know if he's done anything else. He's taking care of a lot of the stunts of different Marvel stuff, I know. But you can tell that this is directed by someone who knows action. And the more I watch directors like Sam Hargrave, directors who've come from stunts, getting into directing, the more I want to see this stuff, because the action in this is absolutely stunning. And you can tell there's a big effort to have as much practical as possible in this movie, which is one of its big positives. There are VFX. Obviously, you've got helicopters exploding. But you can tell the majority of the explosions are actual explosions, not VFX. The majority, the stunts, Chris Hemsworth does all his stunts apparently in this, and he has some crazy stuff in this, like some of the fighting and some of the jumping he does is incredible. So props to Chris Hemsworth, props to Sam Hargrave for directing this beautifully. He really pulls off the action really well. On the negative side, obviously, the drama for me doesn't really work, although by the end of this movie, I'm actually quite invested into the family stuff. So at the start, I wasn't really convinced, but by the end, the whole child element of the child, is he going to betray his mom, or is he going to like stick with his dad and his dad's faction? At the start, it wasn't convincing me at all. By the end, though, especially because the final scene is very well done, I was actually quite invested in it. So overall, I'm quite positive with regard to Extraction 2. I would recommend it to basically anyone who likes action. If you're a big fan of John Wick, like this isn't as good as John Wick. Let's not get that wrong. But it's quite close. It's quite close. So you can tell there's a lot of passion behind this movie. Obviously, we know that Joe Russo wrote this, so the dialogue again is not very convincing, very vanilla, very vanilla dialogue. But overall, very positive about Extraction 2. I would recommend it. If you like action, you should watch this, especially if you have Netflix. I know the reactions to it on Letterboxd were actually quite positive, even on Rotten Tomatoes. I believe it had some pretty decent reviews. And overall, yeah, watch it, especially for that prison escape scene. It's stunning. It's 16 minutes, and it's like, I don't think my breath was just like, whoa, oh my God, that's so cool. Like I was 60 minutes of me shouting, oh my God, that's so cool. Like it really is cool. It's a really cool movie. It's just, that's all I have to say about it. It's just a really cool movie. You just enjoy it. So those are my thoughts on Extraction 2. Moving on, quickly, I want to go through the episodes of Black Mirror. But Joe, first, can you tell us your thoughts on what was the name of the episode?
Loch Henry.
Loch Henry. So, your thoughts on Loch Henry first, Joe.
I thought it was pretty good, and like that's just because the last time I watched Black Mirror, I thought it had kind of gone to shit. To be honest, I wasn't a fan of any of like the more recent episodes in the last season. I didn't finish the last season that came out, but I watched it again because I live in Scotland, and it was like late. It was late on a Friday, and I said, oh, I'll watch this. I should definitely enjoy it. What was different from it, and I kind of liked it, is it felt like a bit of a callback to one of my favorite episodes of Black Mirror is the original first episode, the one surrounding the Prime Minister.
Yes,
who has to do
pig.
something. Who has to fuck a pig in order to save this.
I love it. I love that.
This
episode.
princess. Because there was a discussion about it on Prickly Pears this week from Francesca, a friend of the show, usually a replacement for me. This isn't me shitting on you, Fran, if you're listening to this. But there was a discussion about how Black Mirror is usually like it's a commentary on like technology and like the future and stuff like that, which a lot of the times it is. But I did like in earlier seasons where it wasn't always that. It was just more a commentary on how far people will go to the darker side of humanity to do something. And
Yes.
I was happy. I was happy to find out that that's what this episode kind of revolves in its theme. It is how far does the dark side of humanity really go? I didn't love a lot of the meta elements. It's one of the things I'm not liking about recent Black Mirror stuff, like the whole streaming platform stuff. I know one of their other episodes is involving like a streaming platform and stuff like that. That feels like the Netflix of it all, kind of putting its tendrils into it. I thought the performances were very good. The cinematography was also very good, and the meta aspect of it I did like is it's a filmmaker making a film which is personal to him, and then it kind of takes a turn, and the turn is pretty fucking shocking, to be completely honest. Although I saw it coming a little bit, I was still like, "Oh shit, they went there."
I didn't see it coming. I was really invested in this episode. I was like fully invested in it. I really liked it.
I thought it was good. I feel like when it got to its kind of big reveal, so to speak, it kind of steamrolled ahead at 100 miles per hour and really rushed towards its end. And it left some things untied that like didn't make sense. It didn't really like tie a proper bow on everything. I felt like it needed to. But otherwise, no, good. I will find a way to get my hands on the rest of the season.
Yes.
And I'll definitely I'm definitely a Black Mirror fan again. I enjoyed this. I would say 7.5 out of 10. I'm probably leaning more towards a 7 if I was rating on IMDb. But it was good. Like it was certainly like I enjoyed it.
So, really quickly, I'm going to start from least favorite to most favorite. So, my least favorite episode this season was episode 4. Right? I put these in order, right? So, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. So, Maisie Day was my least favorite episode from all of them. It's basically, it's focused around these paparazzi who follow this actress who was involved in a hit and run. Listen, up to the point where it was focused around the whole concept of the paparazzi and how that negatively affects mental health of stars and so on. It was fine. It was a fine episode. There's Zazie Beetz in it, who is a good actress. I did quite like. It's up to that point. Then obviously I'm not going to spoil it. There's a plot twist. 2/3 of the way in, like, even because these are so short. It's like 40 minutes long, so it's like 25 minutes in, which completely ruined it for me, and it's really bad. It's the plot twist is really bad. So up to that point, I was like really invested and really interested in the whole paparazzi idea, but then they just go way too into. I can't say more because I'll spoil it. So up to that point, I was like, oh my god, this is really interesting. It was a 4 out of 5 for me up to that point. Then the whole twist really didn't work for me, and that changed it from a 4 out of 5 to like a 2 out of 5. It completely ruined it for me, honestly. So that was my least favorite episode, Maisie Day. Second least favorite was probably Joan is Awful, which is I'm going to compare it a lot to Loch Henry, because for me Loch Henry is Black Mirror doing meta very, very well, in my opinion. Especially the ending for me was fantastic. Seeing the repercussions on our character, on what was his name, Sam, yeah.
Oh, Davis, the character.
Oh, that's the actor. Oh, Davis was the character, sorry. On Davis. But this, for me, I know this was one of probably people's favorite episodes this season. For me, this really did not work at all. I didn't completely dislike it. I very much liked the performances. I thought Salma Hayek was very entertaining in this. So it was an entertaining episode. Don't get me wrong, but for me, it was way too meta. And basically, the whole concept is that you have this woman. Now, even the idea of an average woman, she was in charge of like this big company. So for me, that's not an average woman. And I found that very weird. She was married. She has this beautiful house. I found that very weird. Anyways, a stunt to discover a global streaming platform has launched a prestige TV drama adaptation of her life, in which she is portrayed by Hollywood A-lister Salma Hayek. and then it continues. So it goes into like the whole concept of AI generated images, and so on and so forth. So very meta. I was very much looking forward to this episode because I knew what it was about, and I thought it would be fascinating. For me, it just did not work. I know a lot of people did quite like it. There's Michael Cera as well in it. He's quite funny. So again, I didn't hate it, but I'll probably give it around a 2.5 out of 5. That was Joan is Awful. Then I would say all three of these I really did like. All three of these I really, really liked. I probably, from these three, I'm going to go next with Demon 79, which was still very good because it's a very, very well made episode. It's Northern England 1979. A meek sales assistant is told she must commit terrible acts to prevent disaster. Basically, she has to kill 3 persons or the world will end. And it's beautifully done. The performance by Andiana, I don't know if I've ever seen her before. Aniana Vasan is bloody great. She's really, really good in this. She's very convincing in the whole, like, she's really quiet and however, at the same time, she has these moments where she's like, she wants to commit murder. So she's one of those really quiet people who have like a dark side to them, which never comes out usually. But then this whole demon thing happens to her, so it has to come out. Her whole performance and the development of her character from the start to the end was great. It was really good. And it was beautifully shot as well. Papa Asiedo as well was really good as Gap. He was fantastic in this. It was very funny performance. So I had a really good time with this. I'll probably give it around a 3.5 out of 5, just to give you an idea of how much I liked the other two. Then Loch Henry, which I watched today, which I was completely invested in. Loved it, really enjoyed it. Like you said, I really enjoyed the whole meta thing. I thought the performances again were really good. I don't really need to go into details because you already got into it, but I'll probably give this a 4 out of 5 in my opinion. I think it's a very, very, very well made episode. And to conclude, my most favorite episode was Beyond the Sea with Aaron Paul. Obviously, I'm so happy to see Aaron Paul in a different role, kind of, to his whole Breaking Bad role, obviously, as Jesse. It's an alternative 1969 in which we've got 2 men on a perilous high-tech mission who, then this tragedy takes place, and so the whole thing develops. Now, this sentence basically tells you nothing about the episode. It's quite long. It's 1 hour, I think, 20 minutes, basically a movie. It's beautifully shot, stunning, and the performance by Aaron Paul is just mind-blowing.
Yeah,
He was
I've heard very good things.
Mind-blowing. Like, I was so happy Aaron Paul gave a brilliant performance in this, because I don't know I've seen Aaron Paul in anything, great.
Yeah, since Breaking Bad, he kind of went to like some trashy action films. But
yeah, he was very good in El Camino, but again, that's Breaking Bad, right? That's the Breaking Bad world. So I'm so happy he was brilliant in this, because I always, when you have these like brilliant performances in a series, and then they get a lot of trash movies, and we've seen that more than once. Yeah, there's always the fear that maybe he was just good in that role because he was acting as himself, maybe. But here, it's a completely different role to the one of Jesse, and he is so good. He's so good in it. So I cannot stop praising this episode. Me and my girlfriend absolutely adore this episode. Some of the plot twists are, oh my God. The one thing I will say about it is a little predictable at times. Although at the end, there's a twist, which I didn't expect. I expected something different to happen. Josh Hartnett is also very good in this. Josh Hartnett is very, very good in this as well.
Nice to see him back for the first time, and I don't know how long.
Yeah, but I forgot the last thing I saw him in. Like,
he hasn't been in much. I mean, I know him for like 30 Days of Night and Black Hawk Down. And Pearl Harbor,
Black Hawk Down, exactly. Pearl Harbor as well, yeah. But yes, I haven't seen him in a long time. But he's very good in this. And again, and you know the good thing about this is that you get someone like Josh Hartnett. And again, this is a very different role to the one you had in Black Hawk Down. Again, it's interesting. It's a very interesting episode, and it's a kind of episode which had me and my girlfriend talking about it a lot after, which is always a good sign of a good episode when you're talking about it afterwards and discussing like, was that the right thing to do? So yeah, overall as a season I did quite enjoy it. I'm quite upset I started with Joan is Awful because I was like, oh god, it's gonna be all meta and all, but for me the series really improved apart from Maisie Day, which was a big stumble, but these 3 episodes were so good, really, really good. So those are my thoughts on all the episodes of Black Mirror. Overall, as a season, I think I'll give it around a 3.5 out of 5, between a 3.5 or a 4. But Maisie Day and Joan is Awful kind of ruined it for me a little bit as well at the same time. Okay, we can conclude, Joe, with our thoughts on The Flash. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on it. Go ahead, just tell me. What did you think?
I'll start by saying I had a pretty good time overall.
Oh.
Overall,
Okay.
I had a decently fun time. I went in with a very positive attitude.
Yes.
Parts of it I like quite a lot. The main thing, I thought it was quite funny. Especially, we mentioned there's a certain scene involving a certain character very early on. I laughed out loud, as did the rest of the cinema. And it was actually with Ezra Miller's line more than anything. I thought that was a very witty thing. It's a weird film to exist. It probably shouldn't. And not because of the whole Ezra Miller of it all. I just don't think that The Flash needed a movie. The management of the DC Extended Universe, I listened to a podcast today, the 70mm podcast, shout out to them. They did an episode about Man of Steel. And it never really occurred to me how we went from Man of Steel straight to Batman v Superman. We didn't have a Batman. We didn't have a Man of Steel 2. We didn't have a Flash. We didn't have a Wonder Woman. We didn't have an Aquaman. We had nothing. And then suddenly we go from Man of Steel, which is this... It's troubled. Man of Steel is not perfect, but this very gritty, realistic Superman, which is very bold. It's very different to any Superman we've seen before. Straight to, we're bringing in Batman and we're going to shove Lex Luthor in there. We're going to shove Abomination in there. We're going to put Wonder Woman in there. The Flash is going to have a cameo. Cyborg's going to have a cameo. I don't know what they were thinking when they wanted what Marvel had built, but yes. they wanted it now. They didn't want to build it over 10 years, which you cannot expect an audience who is not familiar with these characters to ever buy into that. Now again, I had for me, The Flash is just fine. It is, for me, the definition of a 3 out of 5. Mm-hmm. The thing is, I think about some of the parts I liked about it. For me, the part I thought the emotional hook was very good of the film.
Yes. That was surprising.
Yes,
I was actually really into the whole emotional part.
Yeah, and in the more emotional scenes, Ezra Miller is very good. For me, they sold the emotion.
He is. That's true.
And that's why when I think about the good things that I like it's funny. It gets the Flash. It gets that the Flash is meant to be lame. Okay, I can't see what's on the phone there. You go to a 3 out of 5. It gets that the Flash is meant to be lame and he's a bit of a loser and he's a bit of a firecracker as well. So it does get aspects of the character. So when I think about those things, I go, maybe it's a 3.5 out of 5. Not that these numbers really matter in the grand scheme of things. But it's got a lot of issues. A lot of those issues are in the fact that it's fucking long. It is
long.
It is so long.
It really does not need to be that long.
And because of that length, it's trying to cram so much in. I dubbed this movie, it's an origin story. It's trying to be one of the most well-known stories of the Flash there is, which is the Flashpoint paradox. More on that later. and it's trying to reset the DCEU all at the same time in one film. It had so much on its shoulders, and I have sympathy for Andy Muschietti for trying to do something as big as that. But like the origin stuff, it does well. The emotional hook of the film about the Flash wanting to change his parents' fate is good. But then unfortunately, that is the plot. Andrea, have you read or watched the animated film of the Flashpoint Paradox?
No, I've never read any of the Flash comics.
I would love for you to go and watch the animated film of Operation Flashpoint, because it is genuinely fantastic. And when you see what could have been and what we got now, it's I know I shouldn't compare, but it's hard not to. When you're doing multiversal Flash who runs so fast he goes back in time to change his parents' fate, you go, as a comic fan, Flashpoint Paradox straight away. And it's his most well-known story, it's his best one, and it's the coolest one. A big mistake they made, and I get why they did it, because of the Ezra Miller stuff, you couldn't have this person be the face of the marketing without facing serious backlash from the wider society and press with the allegations against Ezra Miller. Because I think now this film has cameos I'm not going to spoil and mention, one of which right at the end of the film, again, I laughed out loud at that they had the audacity to do it. I couldn't believe that they did that.
Much. But Jesus, that scene looked so horrible.
No, not that one. I'm talking about literally last scene.
The post-credit scene. Oh, the post-credit scene.
I didn't watch the post-credit scene. I left. I didn't care about the post-credit scene.
No, not the post-credit scene. That was another cameo. That was a different cameo. And
I'm talking about the last scene. I'm talking about
the last scene.
I'm talking about who gets out of the car in the last scene of the film. I laughed out loud.
Even my parents who are, they're just like they watched all the old Batman stuff and all the old movies. So they know that stuff. They don't know the more recent stuff. They know some of the more recent stuff as well, to be fair. They've watched most of it with me. Because I watched it with my mom and dad. And when they saw that cameo, they were like, oh my God, what? Yeah. And everyone was laughing in the cinema.
I believe it was played for comedy.
Yes, 100%. It was very, 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 like, even the fact that he was like, I can't say it because it's a spoiler.
It's a very self-aware film. I'll give it that. It knows when
it is self-aware. That's very, very true. It is very self-aware. But the comment by the Flash by Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
He passes a comment before that person comes out, when that person comes out, and I think that's done on purpose by the actor who comes out, because of obviously all the history behind those movies and the whole, who, JS, and his.
Yes. But I feel like, I mean, it's no spoiler, Batman is in this movie, and it's Michael Keaton's Batman in this movie, because he's right there on the IMDb. I feel like, unfortunately, because of the whole Ezra Miller problem, I don't think it was initially the plan to reveal the fact that they had like Michael Keaton in this film, or they had Sasha Calle playing Kara Zor-El in this film, because the way they're done in the film, they're done as like big reveals, like, whoa, look, it's this person. But because they're in all of the marketing, you can't go, whoa, look, it's this person. Because, like, even, to be fair, like, because I kind of wished I could have been my girlfriend for a second, because she really liked Kara Zor-El because she didn't know who the fuck she was. Like, she was convinced we're going to go and find Superman. And then when she saw, they just picked up some random girl, she was like, who the fuck's this? But, like, I'm thinking the whole time, like, it's Kara Zor-El. She's going to have loads of powers once they go outside and the sunlight touches their skin. Like,
same like my parents. My parents were asking, who's this? Who's this? It's just man, the fucking marketing ruined all the important reveals were ruined in the marketing, basically.
Yeah, to say like there are more reveals in this film, but they're a lot less substantial.
Small cameos.
Apart from the fact that I think it's a small spoiler to say none of them are actually real. But yeah, the bad parts of this film, the length and some of the visuals are just
babies. The babies.
No, wait, no. In the baby's defense, I was laughing my ass off that entire scene.
No, but I was laughing at how bad it was.
Yes, no, that played into it. I thought it was ridiculous, and it looked terrible, so I was just laughing the whole time. But his whole, I mean, it's no secret to say, the Flash runs so fast he goes back in time in this film. That is, if you've watched the trailer, that is the plot of this fucking... It literally says Barry Allen uses his super speed to change the past. The kind of place where he is when he's like running back in time, I don't believe for a second that is meant to look the way it does, because it is so unstylized that it has to just be like, we didn't have the budget or the time to make this look
The
good.
time. Remember, this has been in development hell for years.
Yes,
There's been so many different versions of this movie. And obviously then we had the whole James Gunn and Peter Safran in development.
Yeah.
And they wanted to use this to reset the whole DCU universe, which I think they did quite successfully. Oh my God, look at this, by the way. Oh, this looks so bad.
Oh, that looks terrible. Terrible. I can't wait. Yeah,
So that did not help at all. And the VFX artists, I feel bad for them because they're going to get a lot of hate for this movie. And I think like this movie has changed so many times and there's been so many reshoots. For the director, I think it was impossible to make like a really good looking movie with all the VFX needed for this.
Yeah.
Like these VFX take years to work on properly, and probably they had the last few months to develop. All right, so I think this is a good time just to mention this really quickly, and then Muschietti mentioned that some of the VFX are intended to look a little weird. The opening 20 minutes of the movie with the whole baby scene and so on, I was ready to leave, I'm going to be honest. My mom would have left with me as well. My dad was laughing, he was having a blast, but my mom was like, what are we watching? Like, she was like, this is not a movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm ready to leave. I'm glad I didn't, because like you said, I did also have a good time. But the VFX in that scene. But it's not just that scene. And it's not that, like, this is the reason why I think this is a bit of an excuse. Because then even in some of the Batman scenes, the cape looks horrific.
Yes.
The cape looks awful. Like it, again, going to go back to the previous thing I mentioned, it looks like it's not rendered properly.
Yeah.
So it's not just those scenes which look really bad. And again, I understand completely the whole context behind this movie. It was very difficult.
Yeah.
Joe, what do you think about this?
My biggest problem from a visual aspect is I knew this film was going to go third act CGI clusterfuck, and it does. Every mainstream superhero movie has its third act of we're going to go full fucking CGI clusterfuck. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 does it, and I love that film because it does it well. So I didn't care that much because James Gunn incorporated sets with CGI. This, it's not a spoiler because you see it in all of the trailers. The main big battle with like Zod happens in the middle of nowhere.
The setting is so boring.
They are in a wide
boring.
open
Jesus,
sandy field, and there are just some ships and some soldiers on the ground, and it's just all CGI, and there is not a thing fucking interesting about it.
All green screen. Fucking green screen. It's so boring, man. That's another reason why I really enjoyed Extraction 2. Like the settings for all the action set pieces were so interesting. Like the final battle takes place in a church. It's a beautiful setting. You have all the architecture and so on, and the whole... there's also some symbolism as well, because there's some religious elements to the movie as well to it. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful setting. This is just a lot... green screen.
But there's nothing there. They haven't put anything.
Nothing.
Man of Steel. I remember Man of Steel got a lot of shit at the time for being destruction porn because in the third act of the film, they destroy so many buildings and Metropolis.
Well, at least it's beautiful.
But like at least that makes it feel like a world. This felt like they could have been on the fucking moon. Like that was when like I really started to like kind of check out a little bit from the film. I was just like, there's nothing interesting for me to look at here. I mean, back to some positives. Great to see Michael Keaton. I
loved it.
And he fits right back into the count. Obviously, it's not him doing anything in the suit because he's a near 70-year-old man.
But he pulls it off really well.
Yes,
He pulls it
even
off
though
really, really well.
it was corny, I did like that they included his line of "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts."
Oh, that
It
was
it was
a bit too
corny,
much.
but the child in me was kind of like warm fuzzy feeling. You know who I really liked, and I would really like if she got more of an opportunity. I really liked
Yes, me too.
Sasha Kaye as Kara
She
Zor-El.
was so good,
And
man.
she had so little to do, but she had a real presence instantly.
She was so good.
Like even her exchange with like Zod that she has, where like she goes very emotional for a second. I was like,
That was
this
so
is.
powerful.
I
Oh
was
my
like,
god.
this is cool as hell because
Yes.
she's not the calm, composed like Superman. She was
Mhm.
like wild, rabid animal. I'm like, I'm into that.
Yes. I was watching that scene with Zod where she was like, ah,
Yeah,
boom. And like I was like, Jesus, this is fucking awesome.
yeah.
And
That
she
made that third
really
act a
pulls
lot
it
better
off.
for me.
Yes, yes. So I agree completely on Sasha Kaye. She is stunning in this. She has a very good presence, and she really pulls off that like emotional aspect of her character. I don't know a lot about Supergirl, to be honest with you. Um,
There's many versions of Supergirl. She is just one of them. So
okay, I hope they keep her though. I really hope they keep. And I think James Gunn, who is quite aware of the like reactions by people, and the majority of people I've seen on Twitter absolutely adore her performance. So I think even as an Elseworlds character, maybe I
yeah,
think I would be very much looking forward to a movie
yeah.
focusing
And
more on her.
and that's how I think, because a lot of people have come out of this. They're like, how does this film reset the DCEU? What this film does with The Flash is it confirms multiverses. So now what I think is going to happen is they're just going to accept, like, look, that universe happened, like the Snyderverse. Here's some others, and here are Elseworlds, and here is the Gunverse, and we're probably not going to go back to the Snyderverse ever again. We actually no, we have to one more time because Aquaman is finished, and that will release. I don't know if I'll go watch that because I didn't like Aquaman at all.
And Blue Beetle.
Uh, is Blue Beetle Snyderverse?
No, it's actually the first actual movie as part of the whole James Gunn world.
Really? But he had no hand in like
No, he had
creating
no
that.
hand, but apparently it's going to be the first movie
I think they'll
or the
start and
first
stop
character
there.
to
I think they'll
appear.
start and stop there. To be honest.
I hope so. One thing that upset me in this movie, Michael Shannon got shafted in this movie so bad.
But also with his comments after, he seemed like he was just doing it for a favor. To be honest, he didn't seem like he was in it. You know?
He had some very positive words on Man of Steel, though. Did you see
Oh,
these comments on Man of Steel?
he loved
Loves
doing
Man of
Man of
Steel.
Steel, but he's not a fan of these like multiverse things. He said it's just he
Yes,
said it's like
yes.
playing with your toys when you're a kid, which like it kind of is.
It kind of is. So, like you, Joe, so I'll conclude this. I don't know if you have anything else to say about the Flash.
No, like my concluding thoughts are: look, it has issues. Yes, it has quite a lot of issues. Most of them visual. Ezra Miller can get a little bit annoying
Oh, my
at
God, I was going
times,
to mention that.
but I also take it back to, is that intentional? Because the Flash is meant to be lame and annoying. He is
Yes,
meant to
but
be
oh my
a bit of a
God,
loser.
it's a bit too much.
But then Ezra Miller brings it back in the more emotional aspects of the film. Like I thought their most emotional scene towards the end of the film actually genuinely got me. I'm like, that's
Yes,
actually
yes,
really,
yes.
really well done. Like,
With the whole story with his mom, that was
yes,
great. That was
I mean, if
that and the
everyone,
Michael Keaton parts were the best parts
yeah,
for me.
everyone should be able to connect to a character that just wants to see their dead relative again. You know, like it's a very easy emotional hook to get onto, and Ezra Miller sells it very well in those scenes. But it has issues. Again, I thought it was fine. I remember I walked out of the film with my girlfriend, and she kind of agreed with me. I said, like, there were parts of that I kind of really liked, but there were parts of that I really didn't like. You know, it's a really down the middle. Like, I could wake up tomorrow and I could think the film is more of a 2.5 or a 2. But then
Yeah.
I could wake up the next day and I go, you know what? No, the film had a troubled production. It had all this bullshit. They tried their best, and I like the heart it has. It's more of a 3.5. You know, but it is a solid, just down the middle this is fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
To conclude, the opening 20 minutes for me, like I said, I was ready to leave. Yeah, for me, the opening 20-25 minutes were...
You know what put me off the opening 25 minutes?
Jesus.
The majority of the stuff in the city, apart from the bridge, was filmed in Glasgow, because I remember I had just moved here at the time when they were doing those shoots. I mean, like, cities get used all the time for superhero films or for films in general to be set in different places. The Batman, Glasgow was used a lot. But in the Batman, you had to really look for it. In The Flash, they were like driving past certain streets. I'm like, I know exactly where that is. And that genuinely took me out of it. Because I'm like, I don't believe this is Gotham. This looks like this fucking Queen Street train station, like right there. Like you're gonna tell me that's fucking Gotham City? Like dress it a little bit, you know?
Very. No, obviously that didn't influence me at all. But the opening 20 minutes for me were just like, what the fuck am I watching? Then, once we get into the whole Flashpoint storyline with his mom, that was very emotional, surprisingly emotional for me. And I was really into it. And then we meet Michael Keaton, his younger, I don't know, is this a spoiler to say that there's another Flash?
No, you see it in the trailer.
You see it in the trailer, right?
Flashes.
The younger Flash for me was unbearable. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't stand. I couldn't stand. I liked, however, that the older Flash felt a bit more mature than he usually does.
Yeah.
Probably because I was comparing him with his younger brother. So I like that Flash. I don't like the younger Flash. Jesus. Now, obviously, it's done on purpose, but it was too much at times for me. But then we meet Michael Keaton's Batman, and the whole story develops from there. So far, so good. And those were the best parts. Like you, I really, really, really liked Supergirl. I want to see her again, and love it. Absolutely love it. The music, the Danny Elfman team. Oh, my heart was beating so hard in those scenes when we heard the Danny Elfman team. But then at the same time, I was like, you know what? Listening to this music, shouldn't I be watching the 1989 movie?
Yeah, probably.
So there were moments in the movie where I was like, you know, this is fine. This is okay. I'm not having a bad time. But you know what would be even better? Watching the 1989 Batman movie.
Yeah,
that would be a better time.
Yeah.
So there was that element as well to it.
Yeah.
But the ending, let me be clear, the final moments of this movie were powerful, emotional, and great. It's most of the third act up till basically we reach the ending, which were the big problem, because the whole CGI battle, like you said, did nothing for me, except for the small parts where we see Michael Keaton involved with the action, and the Batman scenes were okay. Again, the music played a big part to that. There was one scene where me and my dad were laughing so hard with the whole shooting the hooks, kind of. That was you know they're doing that for a laugh. It's clearly done for a laugh, and we laughed at that. The Supergirl action sequences were brilliant, breathtaking.
Her first action scene was
the first
really
action
cool.
scene. Such a great introduction to the character. Really, really good. I like that she's more jaded towards people. You know what? I wanted that development to have more time, but obviously it's 2 hours, 20 minutes. So how, like a movie focused around her first hating people and eventually learning to, you know, see people as, you know, that deserves a movie for itself.
Had her own movie, right?
Yeah. But anyways, and like you, the final comment, like you, I laughed a lot. I haven't laughed this much in ages. Like with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I barely laughed at all. Here, I laughed a lot. Like the scene where he phases.
Of physical comedy. Yeah, the phasing stuff was hilarious.
When he phases into Mrs.
Exactly.
And you hear the scream. Everyone in the cinema was crying with laughter. I was laughing so much
at the running scene after the lightning strike.
The running scene was so good. We were laughing so much. That's why I laughed a lot.
Yeah. Ezra Miller, the best parts about the performance were the comedy. They're very
the physical
good at
comedy
and the emotion. The stuff in the middle, like the little character beats, not so great.
But then the emotional parts were decent as well. So it's like, it's just the annoying parts that I hated personally. The annoying parts I couldn't stand. So yeah, those are our thoughts on The Flash. Rating, Joe. So you said it's a 3, right, for you?
Currently, it's a 3.
It's a 3 for me as well. But again, exactly like you, exactly what I told my girlfriend. On a good day, I'll give this a 3, 3.5. Yeah. On a bad day, I'll give this a 2. If I think about all the bad parts and focus a bit too much on them, this could easily be a 2. But I left the cinema quite okay-ish. Yeah. I wasn't upset. I didn't feel like I wasted time watching it. Let's put that way.
I felt like on the whole I had a good evening. Like I went to a yoga class. I got some delicious tacos. I went to the cinema. I'm like, I had a good evening.
Fair enough. The response to it on Twitter has been really harsh.
It's funny, harsh. But then like you look at the IMDb score and it's fairly high.
Obviously, Twitter and the general audience are different. That's obviously something we also have to mention.
Two extremely different things.
Twitter is the extremes. You've got both extremes, and then the general audience. Everyone's just watching it just to go watch a movie. And then there's obviously people like us who try to be as objective as is humanly possible.
I kind of really agree with Letterboxd. On Letterboxd, it's 3.1.
Fair enough.
Which is a pretty objective way of looking at it, I think.
Yeah. Agreed. Okie dokies. Oh, I'm seeing this comment right now on Twitter on Kraven the Hunter. An Englishman playing a Russian character with an American accent. How? It's going to be so fun watching that movie. Fun in a good way or in a bad way, we'll see. But, Joe, I think we can conclude here. Yeah. It's a good one. Very fun episode. Lots to talk about, actually, surprisingly. Next week, not going to have lots to talk about, I believe, about regard to movies coming out. You'll have, obviously, Asteroid City to review. In my case, obviously, unfortunately, I can't go watch it for well-known reasons by now.
So, do you know what we will have to review by next week? The Bear Season 2, which has just debuted to 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh, okay. All right.
And all critics are saying it's a lot better than the first season, which I don't know how that's possible because I fucking love The Bear Season 1.
Nice. So that'll be interesting. To talk about. Okay. That's pretty much it, Joe. Thank you so much for joining as always.
Pleasure as always.
To our viewers and listeners, first of all, obviously, if you enjoyed the episode, and if you're still here, what are you waiting for? Please leave a like. Please leave a comment. Anything interesting? Your thoughts on The Flash if you watched it. Your thoughts on Black Mirror if you've watched it. Have you watched Extraction 2? Tell us your thoughts on that as well if you have. And that's basically it. Much love to everyone, all the viewers and listeners. Peace. Ciao.